Hi, I'm Mike Messier, and welcome to Short Film Showcase, where we feature the very best short films and filmmakers from the New England region and across the world. On this episode, we have a very special guest, filmmaker Tommy Denucci. But first, we have some great work from our producer of the Short Film Showcase, Bryan. We're going to see the teaser for his new film, Alone, coming your way in the fall, and also the music video, Hold On. Let's check out some work from our producer, Bryan, right here on Short Film Showcase.
Never needed the government for anything. And the one time in my life I did, it failed me.
The state's all gone to hell. 10% unemployment. It's getting desperate out there.
I am begging you, please.
You think you're going to get enough to cover 4 months?
A mother shouldn't need her son to bail her out.
Guess we don't need me to tell you it's tough out there.
Haven't seen you for months. How have you been?
You went back?
Well, I don't have many options.
Where am I supposed to go?
So your aspiration passed you by, and you lie in bed content. You busted all your life of bigger things.
One of the worst things about being homeless,
While you were talking, babe,
you have to pretend you are not.
came and went.
I'm tired of pulling weeds. I've been here on my knees, but they keep coming back. They keep coming back. No matter how I try to light my darkened sky, it always turns to black. It always turns to black. I need to get away from all these debts to pay. I'm living in the red, tired of this debt. Fingers about to break, can't seem to cure this ache. I'm clinging to the left, don't know if I can. It's all I can do.
Right now on Short Film Showcase, let's check out the trailer for Blood Sugar Sedace, a film that I wrote and directed. Here it is, right here on Short Film Showcase, the teaser for Blood Sugar Sedace.
This is my attempt at a low-budget, character-driven psychological drama. This is my story.
You don't have a story to tell.
This is the cross I bear. These are the things I do.
Of your lies. The lies God speaks through your mouth.
Judge me not.
If I were to die, could you exist?
The Creator is more than his creations.
I am this chosen one. I do the things you do. When they laugh at you, I kill them in my heart.
I lie to tell the truth because no one hears my screams!
It was a time when I thought no one else had thoughts, ideas, dreams.
I am not myself today. Today, I feel like someone else.
You. A waste of my potential. You. A waste of my blood.
I always wanted to be a writer.
Not a writer that wrote for himself.
I wanted to be a writer that wrote for money.
Big money. Hollywood type of money.
We cross out lines in the old rule book, create our own games, and laugh and die at our own jokes. I want to be free.
His was what it was not supposed to be.
But first, we have some great work from our producer of the Short Film Showcase, Bryan Casey. We're going to see the teaser for his new film, Alone, coming your way in the fall, and also the music video, Hold On. Let's check out some work from our producer, Bryan Casey, right here on Short Film Showcase. Welcome back to Short Film Showcase. Right now we have a very special in-studio guest. It's filmmaker, Tommy Denucci.
Hello, hello.
Good to see you. And you've been a real busy guy the last couple of years. And
just this summer, it's been great it's great to get out of the house today. I've been in the editing room for weeks now, so.
On Almost Mercy, is that correct?
Yeah, it's nice to see people and trees.
In Seekonk.
Yeah, the beautiful Seekonk Speedway I drove by earlier, which was nice.
Nice. Were you tempted to hop on and do some laps?
Just hit some bumper cars, and I was like, I gotta go see Mike Messier.
Here you are. So Almost Mercy, we're going to start from the current and work our way back, I think. We've got an extended segment. It's good to have you here.
Cool.
And so Almost Mercy, tell us about that film.
Almost Mercy is the last film we produced outside of it came out of the Woodhaven production company. Film was written by myself and B. Dolan, shot by Sam Eilerton, was our director of photography, and of course our producer, Chad A. Verdi, who's been the main force in my corner for my whole career pretty much. So always a pleasure to make a movie with Chad, and it's gotten to the point now where we've made 6 films now as a company under the Woodhaven name. Personally, this is my 3rd film, so it's just getting easier and easier, and it's gelling, and it's starting to really click for us. And I think it's like anything else. If you do it plenty of times, you get better at it every time, and that's all we're trying to do.
Now, this new one, Almost Mercy, is about what exactly? Almost
Mercy deals with a lot of issues that are current and that are around us. A lot going on with bullying. A lot of the things that you see in the headlines every day about kids getting pushed to the brink. We touch upon a lot of these issues in this film, and unlike a lot of my previous films, this one's not your cookie cutter layup of a horror movie.
Right.
This movie deals with a lot of psychological things. It's funny at times. It's got this dark kind of comedic sharp wit to it. A lot of that goes to B. Dolan. B. Dolan's a guy who I worked with when I was an intern and Bernard was coming up as a writer. We worked together, and we just recently kind of caught up again and wrote the script together. And he's just so good, man. It's a pleasure to work with him.
Nice.
So,
what do you find interesting about the co-writing collaboration experience? I know that in my own experience it's a challenge, but it can be really profitable too.
I think it all comes down to being flexible and not ever being married to any one notion or any one idea, being open to other ideas and being willing to say, you know what, I don't know.
Right.
And that's okay. You don't know the answer to this one. Maybe your pal does. Maybe your partner does. That's why you're in it together. So for me, this was my first movie that I actually had a co-writer for that ended up getting produced. I've written other scripts with other writers before. This is the first one that got made. And it was great for me. A lot of it was a safety net. It was someone to talk to. I mean, it happened quick too. B works really fast. So in a matter of months, we had this draft cranked out. And I think we had our first meeting together. We had a coffee in like September.
Yeah.
And I think by New Year's Day, we had pretty much the working draft.
And then you were already shooting this year?
Yeah, we were shooting, in May, so end of April. So it was a very fast process, and that's how it's got to be sometimes. You can toil over a script for years and years, and I've heard some things, people, 30-something drafts, and it's like at a certain point, you got to make the movie. It's like, all right, go make the movie.
It's difficult when you've made a movie in your mind, but yet you haven't filmed anything. That's very frustrating for myself or for anybody.
Yeah, and that gets to be one of the sticking points that I think a lot of filmmakers get hung up on, and you got to just jump over them. We always have this movie that plays out on our eyelids that we kind of created in our head.
Right.
And it's never going to be exactly like that when you go make the movie. So I think that's one of the first things that you need to let go of as a filmmaker. Knowing that, okay, it's a privilege when once in a while you're behind the monitor and you see the image and it's exactly like you pictured it when you were writing it. That's a rare privilege. That doesn't happen all the time.
Right.
When that happens, that's like a ball player hitting a home run.
Right.
But you're not going to hit a home run every at-bat, and you need to know that it's okay just to get on base. And it's like, all right, well, that scene might not have been exactly how we cooked it up, but we got what we needed out of it, and we're moving on.
And then it comes from experience. Just being the reality of filmmaking is because of so many collaborative concerns or situations or financial or circumstance or location being changed, you're not going to get what you wrote. Like you just said, you're happy to get something that's awesome, but it may not be exactly what you thought of at the time.
Got to be flexible.
Yeah. So let's go back in time a little bit. Well, first of all, who is in Almost Mercy? Because you're really proud of your cast.
Oh man, I love this cast, and I love the combination of a couple of big names that everybody knows, and I love the sort of newer actors who are getting their chance to really cut their teeth on this film. So you've got people like Bill Moseley and Kane Hodder, of course, who was the man behind the mask, playing Jason, the famed horror character.
Yeah.
So you've got these guys kind of anchoring down the film, and then it's just sprinkled in with a lot of other kind of interesting spices. Like we've got Tommy Dreamer, who's a pro wrestler who, for those of you who don't know this, I've always been a huge professional wrestling fan. It's one of my odd little escapes.
Sure.
I like to just throw it on and kind of disappear for a couple hours. It brings me back to being a little kid. I don't know what it is. I just love it. So for me, I love working with pro wrestlers for a number of reasons. The main one, obviously, being the fact that they can do stunts better than any stunt performer you can find.
Right.
And, if they get hurt, they kind of like laugh. You're like, oh, you okay? You okay? They're like, are you serious? I fell down. I do that every night into thumbtacks and fiery tables.
Yeah.
So they're great to work with. So I got to work with Tommy again in what I think is Tommy's best role that I've ever seen. I was really happy with what he brought to the table on this film. Really talented guy. But then, of course, our two leads are played by Danielle Gilden and Jesse Default, who I really think people are going to watch this movie and they're going to get a lot of jobs. People are going to be like, who are these two kids? Because they're just phenomenal. They were really difficult roles to cast because they're the leads, and there's so much kind of that hinges on them. But we picked the right people, and they were just tremendous. They answered the call. And of course, for the local, for theater people around here, one of my mentors coming up as an actor was Fred Sullivan Jr.
Yeah.
And I've always been waiting and waiting for years since I've started making movies. I've been waiting for the right moment to use Fred Sullivan and hoping that the planets could align, because he's always doing a play.
Right.
He's always doing something. He's one of the busiest actors in these parts. So the planets aligned and we were able to get him in this film, and it's just tremendous. I'm really, really excited for what he did in this movie.
What role does Fred Sullivan play in your film?
Fred Sullivan plays the thick-skinned principal who basically is the guy behind the guy who runs the town.
Okay.
It's one of those schools where, there's a big football program and everything happens, just to protect these boys and this institution and the great name of this school. So he's very much the sheriff of the town, even though he's just the school principal. But he certainly has some questionable, he makes some questionable calls as things go on, and that's kind of what we'll see when the story unfolds.
Well, Fred, we'll open this up to a more international conversation, but Fred Sullivan, just as a side note, was my first acting teacher.
Is that right?
Yeah, I know he's very talented and very intense, and so it's great that you're bringing some local theater actors into your films. Jesse Dufault, I think I saw in a stage play a couple of years ago, and he's very talented
well,
too.
These people are just wildly talented, and anytime you have the chance to put talented people in front of the camera with even halfway decent material, you're going to make an okay movie.
Yes.
It's not rocket science,
And the movie you did before that was about a year and a half ago. Was it the opposite?
Yeah, it was a little different. Army of the Damned was kind of, I think we said, it was like Goonies on crack.
Right.
It was kind of just this wild, fantastical adventure, romp through a house, fighting demon hell warriors and machine guns and rock and roll music. And this film's totally different. And not that I wanted to run away from that style of film. I wanted to make a different type of movie, and this was my chance to do that.
And you've also made a film with, was it Jonathan Silverman? Am I correct in that?
Yeah, Jonathan Silverman was actually in the first movie I ever directed. It was called Self-Storage, and he actually plays a cocaine-snorting, body part harvesting criminal who steals kidneys and sells them on the black market.
Wow.
So it's a long way from anything that you've seen Jonathan Silverman do. So it's a really fun role for him.
You stole my life story, by the way.
Yeah, well, that's so funny.
I thought I had a copyright on that.
He said that he talked to someone for research.
Right.
I don't know.
But he's a big star because he was in a show called Give Me a Break in the 80s. He was in a movie, the predecessor to Biloxi Blues. It was Brighton Beach Memoirs.
Of course,
fantastic film. Based on
child actor at the time.
Yeah, and he's just a funny
For me,
guy.
He'd probably get upset if I said this because all he gets is Weekend at Bernie's stuff. But
Right.
Weekend at Bernie's for me, growing up, that was one of those movies that my sister and I would just throw on and watch over and over again, and we knew every line in the movie. So for me to work with him, it was just kind of weird. I remember calling my sister and be like, Sarah, I'm on set with Jonathan Silverman. And she's like, Weekend at Bernie's? I'm like, Weekend at Bernie's. So we got to have some fun with that.
How's it to work with some of your heroes, whether it's Tommy Dreamer, the wrestler, or Jonathan Silverman, the actor? What's it like to
you go through this range of emotions, kind of. At first, of course, you're like, oh my God, I'm working with so-and-so. I can't believe it. And you get that kind of fanboy aspect of it. But you have to quickly kind of put that on the shelf,
right,
and learn to compartmentalize that, because you have to work with these guys. You have to do a job, and you can't find yourself buying into their celebrity so much that you make that it fogs up your decision-making abilities.
Right.
So you got to kind of dance around knowing that, oh my God, we're not worthy. I can't
Right.
believe you're in my movie. To also like, all right, I got to get the best I can get out of you. So it's kind of a funny
balancing act.
thing to balance. Yeah, exactly.
Because they're looking to you. You're the director of this film, which has a few $1 million or several $1 million, depending on the budget of the particular film, and they're looking for you for guidance, direction, because that's your job.
Yeah, and the other thing too is it's just it comes down to they've seen it all before. They've had people mark out on them. They've
Right.
had people geek out to see them. So to them that's all very normal. And when they show up on a film set, they don't expect that.
Right.
That's kind of not expected. It's sort of understood that people that are on the set are part of this weird dojo of
Right.
whatever this this lion's den of filmmaking is. Like, it's understood that if you're on that set, you're not going to be a fanboy. You're here to work.
When I do extra work, they say, it's actually, they don't even say it anymore. It's just understood. You don't mark out, you don't fanboy out.
No.
You do your job, and you don't, whatever you do, if you ask for autographs, you're out of there.
Yeah, we've had stuff like that happen before, and fortunately for me, I've got to say, every one of the actors I've worked with is really gracious about that stuff, and never will. I mean, they might give you a look like now's not the best time, but they've all been very gracious. But what we try to do is make it so that, I'll tell a lot of my green, newer crew people, I'll just be like, look, I know you're a big fan of so-and-so. On the last day that they're working, when they're done, you can go up to them and, get a picture or something if you do it respectfully.
Right.
But, that's the type of stuff that gets them nervous, and then it gets them off of their flow,
The actor, because when you're an actor, you just want to, some actors are different, some are, method or whatever, but they want to concentrate on their role. They want to get into that headspace, and they don't want people treating them differently than, professional.
Yeah, or naming, whatever character that they played, or, what was it like working with blah, 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 so they don't want to hear that.
Pull a Chris Farley from Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, rest in peace.
Yeah, I was referring to his character, yeah. So, we're just looking back at some of your stuff. You started off with a film that I had the lucky enough to see at Rock and Shock, which was Incubus, I believe.
Incubus, yes.
Yeah, and you were an actor in that film.
Yep.
And that was your producer friend, Chad Verdi's, one of his first goings. And
that was Chad's first film. That was the Woodhaven Productions' first movie. It was directed by a gentleman by the name of Glenn Ciano, and yeah, it was really where it all started for Woodhaven, and to kind of come out guns blazing with someone like Robert Englund,
right,
being in your movie, that was a really great way for us to kind of get the train on the track. And we had William Forsythe in that film. That was the chance that I got to first start to hang out with William, and fortunately, William and I are still good pals, and he's sort of taken on a mentor role in my life, and he's a guy that I can call and be like, hey, what do you think of this? Or what do you think of this, storyline or whatever? And, one of those productions where, fortunately for me, I was able to just make so many connections on that set. And whether you like the movie or not, that was the movie that started it all up for me. So,
right. Well, it was it was a great showcase for Robert Englund. And you had some great scenes in the film, playing, I believe it was security guard, the wisecracking rookie cop.
Yeah.
And so what an experience it must have been to kind of observe and be on set and work with all these top actors.
Yeah, that was one of those moments where, like I said before, you geek out for a minute. You're like, oh my God, it's Freddy Krueger. And then you're like, all right, I got to work with this guy now. We got to maintain. But he was crazy just because he used to whisper the creepiest stuff in my ear. I can't even say it. But the creepiest stuff I've ever heard about weird stuff right in my ear, right before the director would call action. So he had me just I was definitely intimidated and freaked out by him. And he's an older gentleman, but Robert could still handle himself if he had to.
He can still go there, so to speak.
Absolutely.
What are your goals? We're gonna jump around a little bit, but you've got so much stuff going on. Besides the immediate future, we know you got some big stuff we'll talk about, but 5 years from now, where do you see yourself working on?
Oh man, that's a tough question. It's nice to plan things out and to have a future, but sometimes planning out that far in advance can just kind of, dilute the drive that you have for what you're working on right this second. So really, I try and take it more, film by film, project by project, year by year. I try to treat every movie like it's my first movie, like I'm that excited to be there, and I'm that replaceable. Because guess what? That's the truth of this business. You're only as good as your last movie, and everybody is replaceable. Everybody you see on set, every actor, every PA, every art department, every crew member, with one phone call could be replaced.
Right.
So that goes for me. That goes for anybody. So that's the kind of attitude that I try to take to every project, so I don't get replaced.
Stay hungry.
But, you got to stay hungry. And, so I would love to direct big studio films someday. That would be awesome. But for me right now, it's just about the next project,
And what's that going to be? Because we know you're editing now.
Fortunately, I'm working on the Vinnie Paz story, Bleed for This. I'll be working as a consultant on that film. That'll be through our main production company, which is, of course, Verdi Productions. That's Chad A. Verdi's passion project, which he's been just building this amazing roster over the last few years. When you think of the producing team and all the big guns that are coming to Rhode Island, I mean, you've got Martin Scorsese attached to this film.
Right.
You've got Bruce Cohen attached to this film, who he's sort of like the added side bonus that people don't even realize. I mean, this is the guy who produced American Beauty. This is the guy who produced Silver Linings Playbook. So, I mean, that's like your second guy on the list. That's not even your cleanup hitter.
That's your,
and the cast is amazing. We've got Miles Teller and Aaron Eckhart, and it's just going to be one of those really special films that comes along once in a while, and I'm just happy to be a part of it. So that's kicking off in November, and beyond that, B. Dolan and I are at it again, and we are crafting up a story that I'm really excited to tell. And it's so exciting because we don't even know how it ends at this point.
Okay.
We're in the early writing stages. But I will say this: it's a bit of an attack on social media of some kind. This next movie, it's not goblins, it's not hell warriors in my crosshairs. It's social media. So.
Nice.
It's a little bit of a fun piece on how this is all affecting us. My phone just went off in my pocket, and I probably have several messages, and it's freaking me out. I'm getting anxiety.
Right.
Just thinking about how many likes I might have on a picture I posted. So my point is, this whole social media thing, I'm not saying it's a terrible catastrophe or anything, but it's certainly changing us as people, and I'd like to make a film that really focuses on how that's changing us and what could happen because of these changes.
Well, just some themes you could work with, as you know, is attention span, what was I talking about?
The people watching this show have checked their Facebook 16 times by now.
Right. And
for sure.
They have one window for us and one window, and they're probably just listening to us. And,
totally.
But just Facebook, Twitter, and so forth, you get that trigger finger. And sometimes I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do in my haze is go.
That's how you wake up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what everyone. It's the morning paper now.
Right.
That's what it's become, and it's just getting to the point where it's a little much. And what did we do before all this stuff? We survived.
Remember when you didn't actually have a cell phone? You actually had to keep your commitments to people.
Oh,
Like, you
God,
couldn't
yeah.
just-
I'll show up next Tuesday at 9 o'clock. And if you didn't show up, it's like you weren't showing up.
You missed out, and you disappointed someone, and now it's just you text 5 minutes before, I can't make it, sorry, LOL. Or,
It is a lot easier to blow people off now.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
that's not
absolutely
good.
right.
That's not good at all.
No.
So I'm interested in the next piece.
We're coming for you, social media.
By the time the movie's made,
There'll be some new thing
yeah,
out.
there'll be some
that-
new thing.
My whole script will be obsolete. Be like, what's Twitter?
Twitter, what?
My grandmother uses that.
So let's talk more. We talked about using some, just as a personal, professional relationship of mine. I believe Jose Gonzalez had a fight scene with Tommy Dreamer in your film. Was that correct? Diana
Yes.
Porter.
Yes.
Porter was in there?
It was less of a fight and more of an attack.
Okay.
But yeah, there was something that went down with him. Jose is a really cool guy, and I got to meet him that one day. And
Yeah.
I remember casting him, and I saw a few different photos, and then I saw his picture. I was like, oh, this is the guy.
Yeah.
So he's got a great look and real professional to work with. And I don't want to say too much because it'll give away what happens in the movie, but he dealt with some very uncomfortable things on set, and he dealt with them like a pro. And,
Right.
Yeah, he was great to work with.
That's great. And Diana Porter was in the film, I believe.
Same thing with Diana.
Yeah.
She dealt with a very uncomfortable situation. Some scenes get uncomfortable to shoot. That's something. For the first time in my career in this movie, Almost Mercy, there were 2 or 3 scenes that were really uncomfortable for me to even shoot.
Right.
So much so that I was watching them in the monitor, and I had to literally just be like, wow, this is like effed. I had to back away for a second, like what's going on? So but that was a good thing to me. When if you can freak yourself out, then there's a good chance you'll freak out the people at home.
And it's tough as a director because these actors are putting their safety and their not just
Absolutely.
physical safety, more so their emotional.
And just flat out, do I look dumb or not?
Right.
Safety.
Right.
Like, are you making me look like an idiot? Because
Right.
they can't see. They're not looking at the monitor.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, like I noticed, especially on my first film, you get a bigger name on set, like a guy like Michael Berryman, and he watched the first setup that we did that day. He came over, he did his first scene, he came over to the monitor, he's like, "Can I watch that back?" And I was like, "Sure." And he watched it, and it's almost like he was like, "All right, am I gonna look dumb for the next week or two? How bad is this?" And he watched it, and he was like, "Okay." And then he never asked to watch anything for the rest of the movie. But it was almost like he wanted to see, it was his first day, like, how is this going to look like crap, or do these guys know what they're doing?
Can I trust these guys?
Yeah, can I trust these guys? Exactly.
Yeah.
So that was, for me, that was the big vote of confidence on his first day of work. He showed up, he did one scene, he saw it, he was like, okay, good. Restrainers are off, and he just went out and did his thing. So
That's great. Let's talk about some of these wrestling guys, because
Let's do it.
Let's talk about, now that we're halfway through the interview, we can loosen up the
everybody
reins.
changed the channel.
Not everybody. The foreign object guys will be watching.
Yeah.
My buddy Ed Hardman and so forth. But the wrestling to both of us really is something we grew up on, and even our producer Bryan Casey likes wrestling, and we just, for you, what does pro wrestling provide? Escapism, and what else?
Well, it's escapism. It's it's my soap opera. It's the story. It's seeing big, larger than life type characters in the ring squaring off. I mean, the David and Goliath stories are always fun to see. Who doesn't like the WWE divas?
Right,
I mean,
right.
they're all smoking hot. So it's just great entertainment. And personally, like I'm really inspired by what Vince McMahon's done. I think, in 100 years or in 50 years or whatever, when he's long gone, people will look back and look at Vince McMahon as if, maybe even like a Henry Ford, or maybe not that crazy of an impact he made on entertainment, though. I mean, like it's pretty wild if you think of what he's done with professional wrestling. And to get a chance to work with them, I mean, guys like The Rock and now Dave Bautista, they're crossing over, and they're getting into entertainment and films, and people are realizing, like, if you watch wrestling for a half an hour, you see that they're acting. These people are actors. That's what they're doing. Everything they do in the ring, from creating heat and getting a lot of people angry. If you can get 30,000 people in an arena angry at you to the point where they're throwing their trash at you,
right?
I mean, talk about playing with someone's emotions. I mean, that's a prime example of a great performance. I hate you so much, I want to throw something at you.
Right.
It's like you did that. Or the opposite. You've got guys like Bryan who can come outside and literally point up in the air like this, and you've got 30,000 people screaming, yes, yes, yes. It's like, it's the Pied Piper, Right. I've always been fascinated by the guys who can get an entire arena rocking.
And it's difficult. I mean, it's a tough challenge because those guys, they're used to, there's an expression in wrestling, you do the same work if you're in front of 15 fans or 15,000 fans or 150,000 fans, because whether it's Bryan or whoever wrestler going out there to entertain people, they give it their all, each and every single time.
Yeah, they really do. And you hear a lot of people, the one thing that you can say to a wrestler, if you want to get punched in the teeth by a wrestler, the one thing that you'll say to their face is wrestling's fake.
Right.
And there's a good chance that they might attack you right there, because the truth is, it's like, if by fake you mean it's predetermined, the outcomes are predetermined, then yeah, sure. But the fact of the matter is, those guys are taking bumps that would cripple the average man.
Right.
If you had to do it once. Right. And these guys do it every single night. Yeah. So, anyone who says wrestling's fake, I'd love to see them take a chair shot or even a body slam onto, the canvas, and they'd be thinking otherwise.
Our mutual friend, David Gear, a.k.a. DG
Haven.
DG Haven.
Yes.
He's getting involved.
The most controversial, the most electrifying manager in all of sports entertainment.
And he just suffered a concussion. I don't think he'd mind me saying, but he
he took a bad bump the other day, I heard.
And DG
Haven, if you're listening, we hope you're feeling better.
Yeah. But he's got a bright future ahead of him, and maybe you'll don the tights or step in there.
I just want to watch wrestling,
I had a few matches, and it's fun to do the character work as an actor, but as a person who can feel pain, I always wondered, like, man, these...
How do they do this every 300 nights a year or whatever it is?
I had 13 matches and lost a retirement match, and I'm not going back.
Well, you got to go out on your back.
Yeah.
Those are the rules.
So let's talk more about film, man. Just so many things you've done. It's just really, really great. In Infected, you played Michael Madsen's son, this says, and tell us about that experience.
Yeah, Michael Madsen, I'd say out of all the actors and people that I've worked with, he was the most, I was the most sort of starstruck by him, just because growing up, movies like Reservoir Dogs and Kill Bill, and don't forget Free Willy, where he plays the lovable but coarse dad, or stepdad or whatever. I just grew up on Michael Madsen. So when I found out that I'd be playing his son, I was just like, those are some shoes to fill. He's one of the coolest people on the planet. So it was tough. But we just gelled, and we happened to be into a lot of the same stuff, and we're both big Elvis fans, so we would just geek out and talk about Elvis. And that movie we shot in Foster, Rhode Island, so we were in the middle of the deep woods, so it was a lot of like campfire times, and a couple bowls of loudmouth soup by the fire at the end of the night. Yeah, it was fun. We had a good time.
What did you? Speaking of Elvis, just because I didn't know you were into Elvis, were you a fan of his music and his films, or just the music?
I'm a fan of every single thing that is Elvis. He was like, as a kid, like a lot of kids like Superman or Spider-Man. Elvis was my superhero for some reason. I've always liked him. I like his music. The movies are obviously what they are. They're fun. Like for me, I'll watch the movies now with friends, and we'll just like, geek out and like we'll make fun of them, but that's like entertaining to us. Right. Every movie's the same, you roll into town on a motorcycle, you got a leather jacket, you find some girl, she kind of likes you, you get into a fist fight, you lose the girl, you get the girl back, you sing a song at the end, everything's fine.
Hopefully it's Anne Margaret and someone.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Let's talk about this and some of the nuts and bolts of filmmaking. Let's get back to that.
Sure.
When you're casting your actors, like Jesse Dufault or even a Tommy Dreamer or some, what do you look for when you're casting these actors, so actors know, what is?
For me, obviously, above all, it's your performance, and if you're good, you have to be good. I'm not just going to put anyone out there. A lot of young filmmakers, I think the mistakes they make is they put their friends in their films.
Right.
And just because your buddy Timmy is fun at the party when he's got 6 Coronas in him or whatever, that doesn't mean that he can do that precisely every single take on camera, and he won't get nervous or whatever. So for me, it's not about your friends. It's about the performance and the training and what they bring to the table. Their look has a lot to do with it. I'm not going to lie, like, not to sound superficial, but I think all filmmakers just kind of have an idea of what their characters look like. So, you know, and that's good for you, for actors at home. You know, if you don't get a part, sometimes it's not because you weren't good enough. It's just that actor thought that guy should be blonde, and he went for a blonde guy, and like that was it. And above all, even maybe a little bit more than the talent, I've got to be able to be cool with this person.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, I've got to be able to get a coffee with this person or have lunch with this person and be able to gel with them and vibe with them creatively. Because I feel as though when you're being creative on set, you're kind of naked and you're kind of flapping in the breeze there. So you need to feel really comfortable with the people that you choose to get creative with. And for me, if I don't know that I have that kind of back and forth with an actor where we can kind of communicate without saying more than 2 words, like, I think you should, oh, you want me to, okay, good. You know, and boom, you just had that conversation. If that flow isn't there, it's not impossible, it's just a lot harder, obviously.
Yeah, and there's not enough time in a film set day to have a big, long existential question.
No, there can't be the headbutting. If that's one, like, you got to snuff out the creative headbutting right off the bat, and if you see that's going to be an issue, you have to nip it in the bud before you even start shooting.
Yeah.
But a lot of that goes into just casting people who you feel comfortable with. You know, you're investing in them. When you cast an actor, you're investing in them, just like it's a stock or a comic book that you think is going to be worth it. You're putting your stock in them. So you got to think about that. You know, like, what kind of investment do you want to make? You know.
One of our previous guests, Raja Samaru, said that when he casts his actors, he's looking for people that are going to be good ambassadors of the film, not just, you know, someone who comes in, shoots a couple of scenes, and takes off. Here's a couple of questions our producer came up with, which are great questions. When you're talking about your audience and the relationship you have with your audience of these films, would you rather have the audience think or feel?
I don't know. I think that's one of those filmmaking questions that don't really make sense.
Brian Casey, where?
Yeah, I think when you're feeling, you're thinking, and when you're thinking, you are feeling, and I think thought and feeling are very much connected. So, I don't know. I think it's one of those things where if I had to pick, I'd say feel.
Okay.
I'd say, you know, I'd rather have people, like, finish the movie, the credits roll, and rather than thinking and being like, well, wait, was that the letter that we saw from before? You know, like, I'd rather have them just be like, whoa, you know, like that feeling.
Brought to tears or brought to anger or
humor? Well, I hope not anger. I spent $12 on this piece of
this popcorn.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. But that's a fair enough question. So, you know, for you, it's more like feel.
Yeah, they feel, but I think thought and feelings are connected.
Yeah.
Very much.
That's cool. Do you tend to reveal yourself through your films personally, or do you keep your own life experience out of your work?
I think it's one of those things that just happens without even realizing it. I think anyone who watches my movies and knows me personally will see that there's a good bit of my, you know, my footprints in a lot of stuff, you know, right down to I get very involved in even set deck. Like, I'm kind of crazy and I'll have to arrange things in a very specific way. And, you know, I like to do a lot of, like, personal little shout outs to my past and, you know, a street sign that, you know, the street that I grew up on or whatever, I'll put that in the background. So I really like to personalize my films. That's just kind of like a fun thing that I've always done. Only, like, I'm one of the only people who know about it, and some of my close friends, and it doesn't affect the movie at all.
Well, maybe it does, but, because that personal spin,
maybe it does.
You know, puts a little signature on it.
It might.
And it might come through in the subtext. Or,
possibly.
You know.
But yeah, I love to kind of personalize my films. I think that's one of the fun parts about making movies. You know.
Yeah.
There are no 2 movies that are exactly alike. Even if you have, like, if you and I both got the same exact script with the same everything. And even if we cast the same actors and shot in all the same locations with the same props and the same budget on everything, you and I would have 2 totally different movies. And that's to me one of the great things about filmmaking, you know, the fact that There are no two movies that are the same.
Like fingerprints.
Exactly.
Yeah, snowflakes.
Yep.
So we didn't touch on, we have a few minutes left, so one film that we didn't mention, I believe you directed, if I'm not mistaken, Mina Suvari recently, was that true?
Yeah, I didn't direct her. I was actually in that film. It's called The Opposite Sex. We initially made it was called A Bet's a Bet, but the distribution company felt as though Opposite Sex would be the name that they went with.
Okay.
So we're all jumping behind that. And that movie stars Jeff Stoltz, Mina Suvari, Kenan Thompson's in the film.
Oh, okay.
Who, personally for me, I got to work with Kenan Thompson for a couple days, and aside from being one of the funniest human beings alive that I've ever gotten to hang out with, he's just a really nice guy. I mean, the type of dude who he was in town. He didn't really have a lot of friends in the area or anything, so was totally open to just kind of hanging with everybody and spending time with the cast. And he was a real pleasure to work with. I hope our paths cross again down the road.
So you acted in that film?
Yeah, I played Reno, who was just basically a dope from the neighborhood. Just kind of this Italian-American kid who was kind of, everybody else is on one page and he's always
doing his own thing?
Yeah, he's on Planet Reno.
Nice.
So it was fun to play that type of character. And it was great to not die.
Right.
There was no blood in this movie.
Okay.
Nobody got shot.
Yeah.
So it was nice for me to be in a movie where everybody walks out alive.
There's always a sequel.
Yes. Yeah.
What's something you want to say to the show audience, the short film showcase audience? It's not just New Englanders now, but the show's getting national. As far as the YouTube, we're very appreciative of that. What would you like to say to would-be filmmakers out there or the audience in general?
I think it's just important to have a new crop of filmmakers at all times getting out there and telling their stories, and never allow limitations to stop you from telling a good story. Some of the best movies out there are the best movies out there because they have heart and because they're intelligent, and they don't need big explosions, and they don't always need a shark or anything. You can make great films just with what you have around you. I think all these new things that are coming out, like the 48-hour film challenges and things like that, I think those are all great outlets for filmmakers to come up in the ranks and get out there and tell their stories, because that's all it is. I think too many times people focus on directing or what is it and what's making a movie. It's just telling a story. If you've ever called your friend up and told them what happened to you Friday night,
right?
That's a story. You told a story. That's all making movies is.
You think people make it too complicated sometimes?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I think a lot of that gets into the playing director, and everybody reads these books on filmmaking,
right? And
they read these this thick about all these different theories, from 100 years ago and all this stuff, and how it can apply to your film, and what's the best way to write the best screenplay, and yeah, it's cool. Maybe that'll work. I think it's like a diet, There's a million different diets. There's the Atkins diet. There's this diet. Just stick to it, and that'll be the best diet for you. It's just like filmmaking. It's just like tell your story. Don't get involved in all the other, theory stuff and the heady kind of conversation. It's like, nope, pick some good actors, have a nice story that's simple and easy to tell, and
rock and roll.
And make your movie.
We're just running out of time, but any actors out there that you want to mention that say, someday I would like to work with, such and such?
Well, I mean, if anything, I'd like to give a shout out to an actor that I worked with, who I think one of the most incredible things that I've seen was when I worked with Sully Erna of Godsmack, who I directed him in a movie called Army of the Damned. He played Sheriff Bridge, who is a cop of all things. And Sully and I had a relationship from a while ago where I had worked on some project that he was sort of attached to, and he'd never played a lead before like that, and I reached out to him and said, Sully, I got this script, I think it's great for you. He said, Tom, number one, this guy's a cop. I don't know if I really see myself playing a cop. Number two, I don't know, this is just, it seems like something that's not right for me. And I kind of talked to him, and I kind of convinced that I don't want just a regular run-of-the-mill cop. I don't want the cookie-cutter guy.
Right.
I want someone who's tough and has an edge to him and is, a little bit not so squeaky clean.
Right.
He kind of bought into that, and he agreed to do the film. And I got to say, That guy worked so hard
Nice.
at just crafting the character and working with me. Took time out of his personal life to come and see me, and we worked together and worked and worked and worked. And the performance was just great, and I'm just so proud of what Sully did in that movie. So people who check out Army of the Damned, I think they'll be impressed with what Sully Erna did.
And that's really awesome to go from rock star to actor. And Tommy, we've actually run out of time.
Hey, well,
we've done a Broadway, so to speak.
We had fun.
This is great. Thank you so much,
Thank
Tommy
you.
Denucci. We'll be looking out for your movies.
All righty. Yeah.
On this episode of the Short Film Showcase, we're very happy to have our guest, Tommy Denucci, as well as work from our producer, Bryan Casey, and a teaser from Blood Sugar Sedates by myself. We have also had the video No, Yes, No by Alex DaVincio, and we want to remind you that if you're a filmmaker out there and you'd like your work on the Short Film Showcase, please contact our producer, Bryan Casey, through his new website, bryancaseyfilms.com. That's bryancaseyfilms.com. And if you're out there thinking, hey, how do I get involved in filmmaking, acting, writing, directing, the whole business at large? Just remember, you can do this. You can pick up a script, you can read how it's done, you can write your own script, you can go out there, make some friends, and make a movie. Because if you can dream it, shoot it. I'm Mike Messier for Short Film Showcase.